Good afternoon and welcome to Executive Session, the Nonprofit Times first one for 2026. We talk to executives from around the country and try to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's going on around the nonprofit sector. And when news breaks, we talk to the newsmakers. And today we're going to be talking to Rosie Allen Herring, the interim CEO of United Way Worldwide. I'd like to thank our friends at TechSoup for helping us with the technology to put these executive sessions together. And also, we would like to thank our first sponsor of the year, Donor Perfect. They are a technology firm that's been in the sector for a long time. Donor Perfect makes it easy to do good without compromising stability or scale. They empower nonprofit staff with simple, reliable tools designed for measurable impact. Trusted by more than 75,000 nonprofit professionals, Donor Perfect supports smarter decision-making, stronger donor relationships, and sustainable revenue growth. Organizations using Donor Perfect average 25% more funds in their first year. With intuitive technology, proven performance, and a partner committed to your mission, your team can focus less on managing systems and more on advancing the work that matters most. Learn more at donorperfect.com. Rosie, you've been busy.
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Congratulations on the interim title. I mean, the headline here is that United Way Worldwide has an interim president and CEO. But what's the subhead to this? Interims either simply keep an organization running the way it's been running, or they can be a change maker and have an opportunity to maneuver the organization in a different direction or a slightly different direction. So what's the plan here?
Well, thank you for your partnership and for what you do for our sector. It's really an honor to have this interim role, and I think that it still remains to be seen. I won't get into the offices until next week, and so really it'll be an opportunity to learn, to listen, and then to simply assess. I think for us, as a network where we have some phenomenal individuals and phenomenal CEOs literally across the enterprise, 1,130 over 30 countries, I think it remains to be seen in terms of whether or not there is some transformation to occur or whether or not there are some things that we need to do differently. And certainly, we understand that we're going to evolve like every other organization as we try to meet this moment.
Yeah, but you've been the CEO at United Way of National Capital Area for almost 12 and a half years now. So
Yes.
there must be something on your menu of things that you wanted to change, something that you've been talking to National about. Well, now you're in the big chair. What for a while anyway. So what's been frustrating you that you're going to fix pretty quickly?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say frustrating, but I think that where we have always the opportunity to look at things differently is to look at our fundraising and also look at our public policy initiatives. Because, again, when we find ourselves in this moment and a lot of the transformation that has occurred public policy wise over the last 12 months, whether I'm talking to you as the CEO of United Way of the National Capital Area or even as the interim at United Way Worldwide, I think we all recognize for the nonprofit sector, there is some evolution that has to occur to try to meet this moment. And when we say meeting the moment, my thoughts are you have to look at what the needs are in our various communities and what are the tools that we have to bring to meet those needs. We also have to look at our storied brand of over 130 years, almost 140 years of local United Ways across the globe doing this work. How do we meet this moment of need with the tools that we have? And so the question becomes, if there's a disconnect, what do we need? Do we need more tools? Do we need more resources? And my job, I believe, is to try to figure out that equation because I think we all recognize the need is simply not going to go away.
Right. And you've been one of the more vocal nonprofit executives or United Way executives and nonprofit executives in general with regard to policy of the current administration and some of the issues around SNAP and unemployment and regional revenue. So what are the policy issues that you're going to be standing up for United Way? For example, would you be recommending to United Ways that DEA language be part of their external media, or would you be talking more about how policy on their local websites? What's the policy going to be for the national talking to the locals and supporting them in what they think they need to be doing?
Well, again, I can't definitively tell you any particular initiative that we want to target once we get there, but I do believe that it's again a part of the listening that you must do to try to assess what we think is needed. I'm sure the laundry list is going to be longer than we have the resources to do or the time, but I think that we can prioritize to determine strategically how we can have the greatest impact. So when I say listen. It's listening to the individuals who are at United Way Worldwide, the professionals who are there, who've been doing this work. But I also believe it's the enterprise. I think you may have seen, in the release. I believe in the power of this enterprise and of this network. And I believe that there's loads of genius that's there. I want to listen to my colleagues across the globe, understand what are the issues, understand whether or not we have some best in class solutions to those issues and whether or not they're replicable. And if we can do those things, then I think we're on our way, at least in the short term, of being able to have solutions to some of the issues that are helping us meet this moment. And then, of course, we always have to reserve the right to think strategically and to think about maybe the coming years, the next 3 to 5 years or so, and what that strategic transformation looks like as well. So it's all on the table. We're going to have to do some multiple work streams all at the same time while we're trying to deal with those who may need us in this moment right now.
So, talking about best in class technologies and systems that for the United Way, for years, United Way was putting together a really terrific workplace giving program and technologies. But given the gig economy these days, remote working, and the revenue numbers at United Way Worldwide have been plummeting over the past couple of years because of the change in direction of the organization. So, how do you see revenue coming into the mothership, given the changes in the gig economy and the and generally remote work?
Well, I think that there are a couple of different things that can be, viewed. And again, I think if you talk to any of my colleagues as local CEOs, they all will have, I'm sure, as we've all shared amongst each other, some ideas around that. Yes, we are in a gig economy. Yes, we are in remote workplaces, but I do believe that it's all about how do you shape and tell a narrative around the impact that you're having, and then invite people to go on this journey with you. And it doesn't have to always be the large benefactor. I think sometimes there's an anomaly or there's a myth that we all think that you have to be a millionaire in order to care for community. I believe that United Way is probably the best suited organization to be able to let everyone know that everyone can do something and to give them the avenue to make that happen. So as we think about a best in class, I think you'll find my colleagues in a lot of different markets, whether it's a large market, rural market, or international market, where we can bring some of those best in class solutions because we do have some United Ways that are thriving, that are increasing their year over year contributions. Some may be doing it via workplace, some may be doing it in other ways. And I think we have to be open to it all.
Some of the buzz that I'm hearing from around the country, some people were putting it more politely than others, was that they weren't feeling the love from United Way Worldwide when it came to policy issues and the fact some of the battles they're fighting right now locally, whether it be the SNAP issue, where the SNAP funding was cut off for a while, or other issues with regard to policy and politics. And while United Way has long stayed out of politics, some of the locals have felt that they were, well, cast out on an island all by themselves in the last 18 months or so. Is there a plan right now for United Way Worldwide to change or bolster what's going on from a policy perspective, a defensive policy defensive move?
Well, I think that, again, I don't know until I get there. I won't get
But
there
you've got an
until next
idea.
week.
You wouldn't be going there.
But here's what I will say, because I don't know, which colleagues you've spoken to and what that sentiment is. But I will simply say, when we look at United Ways, it's a different system. We talk about United Way Worldwide, but it's not necessarily a mothership because all of United Ways are independent. They're independently governed. They have their own boards. They pay a licensing fee, for lack of a better term, a membership fee to United Way Worldwide for use of the trademark, the logo, and the like. How they choose to use it depends on what their market needs. And so I do believe that there is a place for United Way Worldwide in being able to support the network. I do believe that. And there is an opportunity for United Way Worldwide to be able to do that in tandem with the local United Ways. Now, I think we all recognize that when you have 1,100 United Ways in all these different spaces and places who all have very sometimes unique needs, it's hard and very difficult to meet each and every one of them. And so I will never make a promise that we're going to make everybody happy. But what I will make a promise that we will listen to everybody. And I think in doing so, we'll find that there probably is a lot more synergy than if we haven't had the opportunity in our communication to be able to define those synergies, to bring those synergies together, and to know how we may be able to replicate them. So, what you have is a commitment from me, not only in listening, but also in acting to be able to bring all of our network together to talk about not only the issues that are important to certain markets, because we may find that maybe one is vocal about it, but maybe 10 others are having the same experience. In doing so, if we can bring thought leadership solutions to some of the toughest challenges, then I believe that that's the right role for United Way Worldwide.
It seems sometimes that the thought out in the field is somewhat bipolar, where they want their independence, but yet they want the underpinnings of the United Way. So will you be going out when you say listening? Will you be hitting the road?
Absolutely. You can't do this job from Alexandria, Virginia. You're going to have to be with the network, and that entails literally going and observing. It's not even about a meeting where you can bring everyone together and they can tell you their best story or make their best pitch. It's really about coming and seeing on the ground how families are being served, seeing on the ground how our colleagues across the country are being challenged, but also seeing across the country how our colleagues are coming up with solutions that I truly believe demonstrate great genius. And I want to learn from that. I want to observe that. I want to be a part of that. And I believe that if we have more of that, we have an opportunity to really and truly move the entire network forward. Because I don't believe that it's even capable, I don't even know if it's probable that some are thriving and others are lagging behind. I think it's a matter of, at the end of the day, what are the questions? What are the conversations? What are those dialogues like? And I know, again, in my current role as United Way of the National Capital Area CEO, I certainly have no qualms being able to shape and tell that story to anyone who will hear. And that messaging, not only to your viewers and your listeners and your readers, but also to our colleagues. So we do want to share. We do want to show and we do want to inspire, because if we're able to motivate, influence, and inspire others to go on that journey with us, then I believe we're all going to be better for it.
Is there a mechanism internally where when you find something that you think is inspirational or best in class, that you can bring it to the rest of the network? Is it like
Absolutely.
is there a
There
Shark Tank kind of
absolutely
situation within United Way?
There absolutely are mechanisms to make that happen. United Way Worldwide is a communicator, and they talk to the network. And again, I think it remains to be seen how we're talking and how much we're talking and how much we're sharing in terms of what that looks like. But as a local United Way CEO, I've never felt that I had any issue being able to convey my thoughts to United Way Worldwide. Now, of course, I'm in the market. And it's a stone's throw away for me to go from my offices in downtown DC over to Alexandria, which is literally a 10-minute ride. But I know for my colleagues who may be, much further away and they are just not in the proximity, making certain that they're heard and that their unique market circumstances are not only seen and valued, but I think that there's an opportunity for us to always have greater dialogue, because you just don't know what you don't know. So you'll find me to be a listener. You'll find me to be one who is ready to go and sit amongst my colleagues, because we do already. And yes, there are mechanisms where that dialogue can be even more impactful. And we will always look for ways to be not only better about it, but also to be able to share even more, to reach even more as well.
What have your projections been from as a local local president and CEO of the in your case, the national capital area, what projections are you looking at in terms of revenue, in terms of services needed throughout the country for United Way for the next 12 months or so? What are the priorities?
Well, I think you can find it's probably a narrative that is not a surprise to anyone, quite honestly, Paul. I think you'll find that the need continues to grow. The need has gone, up exponentially just in the last 12 months alone. I think you'll find that the type of need is expanding and continuing to expand. And I think what's really telling, quite honestly, is who has the need. What you can find and what we've seen here in the Washington metropolitan area is not just that there is need, there is always need, and there will always be need. But I think what we've found is the number of individuals and those who had traditionally been in the workforce, they could have been federal workers and now find themselves needing resources as well. So for us, it's the exponential increase of need, the type of need, be it food insecurity, be it access to workforce efforts to try to find a new job. I think it's very unique to us, but not totally unique to us with the federal workforce, because we do know that federal workers are literally everywhere. They're in every state. There is federal workforce, but there is a very concentrated portion of the federal workforce here in the Washington metropolitan area. And I think we've all watched what's happened in the past year with, some of the, delayed retirements or delayed resignations, if you will. And what we found in the Washington region were many of them were our donors. So what do you do when your donor becomes your client? You have to become innovative in the way that you look at serving. You have to become very knowledgeable about what the data tells us the need is. And you have to become innovative and trying to find a solution. And so when we think about those things, workforce is definitely going to be critical, but also a group of individuals that we like to call ALICE. And ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, but Employed. And just in the Washington metropolitan area, there are over 663,000 households that fit into that category. Wow. 1.4 million individuals that fit into that category. And these are individuals who are going to work every day, but they don't make enough to make ends meet. So if you're going to work every day, you're part of society, you're making your contribution, you're tax paying, you're doing all of those things, but you happen to live in the Washington metropolitan area where it takes for a family of four at least about $120,000 for an area median income to live. So if you're in that 70 range or somewhere below, but you may not be at the poverty rate that then will allow you to have access to support and resources. So what happens if you make $1 above that threshold that allows you to access services, but there's a huge gap between that $120,000 that it takes for a family of four to just make ends meet? What happens to those in the middle? And those are who we call ALICE. And that's the segment of the population that we have put a lot of emphasis on in the last 3 years or so to say that ALICE lives here. ALICE lives among us. ALICE could be our family members, our colleagues. It could be people that we know and we come in contact every day, sometimes even our colleagues. And so at the end of the day, it's really about getting to those ALICE families, because we're not walking away from those who are in crisis. We will always help those who are in crisis. But we've determined, based on our data points, that if we are able to deal with the ALICE families, to keep them from being one emergency away or one, challenge away, then they don't end up with the crisis population. And we have a bigger problem to solve. So if we can get to our ALICE families while they are, viably employed, while they're still looking to do, what they can do for their families to get them stabilized, to ensure that they don't fall into that crisis mode, then I think that we're really trying to move the inch on the needle for being able to help our families. So it's, and again, it's not necessarily unique to us here in the Washington area. You'll find that sentiment and likely that scenario in probably just about any market.
As usual, whenever we chat, you bring up things that then post none other questions in my head. But you brought up the national poverty rate, the people who are making 120, but you need 120, but they're 70. Is the concept of a national poverty rate no longer viable? Should there be poverty rates based on geography? I mean, as you said, it's more expensive to live in Washington, D.C. than it would be to live in some other parts of the country. Should those numbers be adjusted?
Think that they should. And again, this is the world according to Rosie, only because we don't live in a monolithic society and everything is not homogenous. And so we have to make certain that we see people for who they are in this moment. And we have to also ensure that the solutions that we're bringing to the table are the right solutions for that particular market and that particular population. Just going and saying, hey, here's the solution, and it doesn't apply or it's not helpful sometimes complicates it and makes it even more of a challenge. So I think having the ability to see you in your market, see you for who you are and what you bring to the table, see your particular set of circumstances, not try to come up with a solution for every possible scenario, but if you come up with enough, then we believe that somehow, some way, everyone will feel the need to not only will feel heard and seen and valued, but also that something is coming to the table that may be helpful for them as well.
And I've got one final question for you, but before I do that, I do have to thank our friends at Donor Perfect one more time. Donor Perfect makes it easy to do good with simple tools and for serious impact. Over 75,000 nonprofit professionals trust Donor Perfect as their fundraising success partner, averaging 25% more funds in their first year. Imagine what your team could accomplish with tools that are easy to use and proven to work. Learn more at donorperfect.com. Again, thanks to our friends at Donor Perfect. You, we don't know each other very well, but we've had a lot of interaction. And you
Yes.
are, without a doubt, one of the most hopeful people I've encountered in this area. How do you maintain your hope? How do you inspire resoluteness among your staff and the people you're going to be working with?
You know, Paul, I will simply say it is a mindset. I'm not gonna tell you, and I'm human, meaning that, there are times when things can be quite daunting, if you will. So I will admit that. But I believe that we as a society have an obligation and an opportunity to be able to bring others along to build thriving communities. I also, happen to work with a great group of individuals and professionals at United Way of the National Capital Area who choose to bring their talent to the work of United Way. I'm looking forward to working with another great group of professionals who chose to bring their talent to the work of United Way. And so if you're in it together, and if your team believes that you truly believe, not just by words, but also by deeds, meaning that you have to be willing to roll up your sleeve and they have to see you being willing to do that. I also believe that it's as leadership, you have an opportunity to really try to help shape the thinking, but also to be able to engage others and bring them into the tent and under the, into the fold. And so what I've been fortunate enough to do in my entire career, whether it been in corporate America, certainly in the last, dozen years or so at United Way of the National Capital Area, it's really about um, bringing solutions to some of the tough challenges and recognizing that, genius is everywhere. And do you want to be a part of bridging that gap? Or do you want to be a part of just, glaring that there are issues? I've been fortunate to be able to be a part of some solutions that I'm very proud of. And just from my own personal perspective, um, I come from the very deep South in the Mississippi Delta and had an opportunity to come to the Washington area to go to Howard University. And education was a big part of my family's life and what we were able to do. And so my parents were not necessarily college educated. My mother was educated, but at the end of the day, what we had an opportunity to do was to serve others. So while we were fortunate as a family to go off and do some great things that people would consider to call success, I think we have a grounding about us that says, your life is truly worth living if you're serving someone else. And there's always someone to be served. And so I feel like I've been, I've gotten lots of honors and I'm humbled by every one of them because you never ever think you've done enough to earn them. And so I kind of live my life. And at this stage of my career, I want to do even more of that. So it excites me to try to bring solutions. Challenges don't necessarily scare me because I think the bigger the challenge, the bigger the opportunity. And the question is, how are we going to spend our time? And if we're going to spend it on things that matter, then you'll never ever be on the losing end. So I'm fortunate to be able to do that and to have had that mindset for now a large portion of my career. And to be in spaces and places where people will listen and they think that I have something to share and or say. And so it's really my commitment to try to do even more of that. And this is just another way to serve this community. So whether it's at United Way of the National Capital Area or whether it's at United Way Worldwide, I think that there's just even greater opportunities no matter what. And one thing that I will also just add in that just makes sense for this move right now is the fact that I have been so ingratiated in United Way of the National Capital Area and United Way Worldwide have been inextricably linked. We share the same market, but also, some of the things that we've been able to do together. And I, of course, serve on the board of trustees of United Way Worldwide until next week, and until I take another seat in the boardroom. And when we think about where United Way Worldwide employees who generally live in this market too, who want to care about their own community, but happen to work at United Way Worldwide, we want to always be able to give them that opportunity to do that from their own personal space as well. So I believe that there's just a lot of synergy there. And I say it all the time, we're simply inextricably linked.
Great. Well, thank you, Rosie Allen Herring, Interim President and CEO of United Way Worldwide. You've got to going to have a lot of, you're going to be busy the next couple of months anyway. And thank you for being the first guest on Executive Session for 2026. First time we're doing a breaking news executive session. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to our friends at TechSoup for their technical expertise in putting these together with us. And thank you to our sponsor, Donor Perfect. We'll see you in about next time news breaks, probably in about a month. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Be well. Thank you again. And thank you to all your readers and listeners. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Rosie.
Take care.